What did you feel after playing Assassin's Creed? Personally, I fell into a deep state of introspection. I was barely 17 when I first finished the game. That's an important, formative age. And during that period, I was wrestling with opposing ideologies. You see, I was, and still am, an atheist. I don't believe in the existence of God. But I'm from Moldova, a country with a predominantly Orthodox population, which obviously includes children and teenagers. In other words, students I'd go to school with. And one day I made what I felt then was a mistake. I shared as part of a conversation what were my actual beliefs. Now, what happened over the course of the following months, practically years? Nowadays, I don't hold a grudge against any of my classmates for doing what they were. They acted out of a desire to help, a genuine concern that I would not reach salvation. However, back then, I couldn't feel more ostracized. There'd be barely a day when the topic of personal beliefs would not be brought up by somebody in the hopes of changing my mind. And you know what happens when somebody tries to forcefully change somebody else's mind. Nothing good. Every time it was a battle, and I would not remain on the defensive. I was a teenager after all. I would push back. Hard. In retrospect, I have to wonder how relationships between me and my classmates could still be classified as friendships, but I guess the need to stay in the same rooms 5 days per week played a role in that. While there was no hate between us, obviously I can't say that period of my life was entirely happy. I was weary from the constant discourse. I saw no reason to reshape my beliefs. At the same time, I was full of self-agonizing doubt. Because when 20 other people you communicate with daily all try to prove that you are wrong, well, one can't help but wonder, right? This was the headspace I was in when I played Assassin's Creed for the first time, which at its heart has, well, the creed the assassins followed. Nothing is true, everything is permitted. What a wonderful rebellious maxim for a teenager when taken at face value, right? But that's what Assassin's Creed immediately warns against. The protagonist Altair does take it at face value and is an asshole. The word arrogance doesn't even begin to describe his feeling of superiority over others. He is skilled, yes, but in mishandling and misunderstanding the creed, he falls from grace and endangers the very order he serves. So his master sends him on a path of penance to remove 9 men, Crusader and Saracen, who are plague bringers and war makers. Their corrupting influence fuels the Third Crusade. Their deaths will sow the seeds of peace for the land and perhaps redemption for Altair. The game then settles into a rhythm, a structure with a recurrent cadence. For each of the 9 targets, we journey to a city, complete investigation missions to uncover information about them, shortly before confrontation see them commit a terrible deed, but after the actual assassination, we're enwrapped in a surreal confession. The targets speak their point of view, their truth, their motivation, which upends everything we know. Since we're looking from their perspective, it actually makes sense. This structure might be called repetitive. For me, it's methodical, meditative even. Outside of an ungodly amount of optional collectible flags, there's no fluff. Everything serves the purpose of gaining knowledge and then challenging it. The process of regular re-evaluation transcends from narrative into actual interaction, where you as a player have to confront notions you believe to be true, bookended by an unescapable conversation quietly demanding empathy towards an enemy. For instance, there is a doctor who performs horrible experiments on his patients. That's the initial information we're given. That's what citizens who eavesdrop on during investigation talk about. In the doctor's confession, he reveals these patients are mentally unstable, sick, homeless people with nowhere else to go and no one to accept them. His treatment aims to reintegrate them into society, his own guards previously being his patients standing as proof of his successes. The man truly believed he was a savior. Could be just delusion of grandeur, but in the gameplay segments following his death, there's an ever-increasing amount of mentally unstable vagabonds roaming the streets, increasing the challenge of future investigations. Makes one ponder, This element would go unnoticed without the methodical, cyclical nature of the structure that keeps upending what we think we know. And so, we learn. We learn that the Templar Order is not just one of the Crusader factions, it's actually a secret society with members on all sides, our targets. Their goal is peace, just like the Assassins. Except, Templars seek peace through total control. They want to enact their will upon humanity with the help of an artifact, the Apple of Eden. It's not a mythological object, but a high-technology device created by an advanced civilization that existed long before humanity. The apple doesn't bestow direct power, but what it can do is weave illusions. And through those illusions, the minds and hearts of the people can be controlled. By walking this path, Altair comes to understand the creed's true meaning. It's not a permission to do as you please. It's a realization that you can, that you have the freedom to do so, but with that freedom comes the responsibility to choose wisely. Because there will be those seeking to enforce their illusions upon you, rob you of your own will, so you must act with reason, lest you do the same to others. Through Altair, Desmond too learns this lesson in the year 2012. Everything that happens in the historical part of the game we witness through the Animus, a machine that recreates memories of our ancestors hidden in the DNA. Desmond is a runaway assassin who fled his training, believing his parents' teachings to be conspiratorial nonsense. He too ran away from the creed in his own way. Captured by a corporation that is a secret front for the modern Templars, he doesn't just learn the meaning of the maxim alongside Altair, he realizes that in 1,000 years, really, nothing has changed. Secret societies surviving until modern days is one of many conspiracy theories Assassin's Creed draws deeply from. Partially, this is to soften the blow of some of its points. After all, the game claims Jesus was a fraud. But in the context of the game, he is a fraud who used an ancient alien-like device to control the minds of people. One could argue this deflates a truly provocative statement, but the game is actually not interested in proving there is no God, even if you would agree with that notion. All of this is merely a metaphor. Through time, there will always be those who wish to abuse their power and impose their rule, however well-intentioned they may feel. Those are represented by the Templars. They will use whatever tools are necessary to achieve that goal and work best for hanging a veil of illusion onto humanity, represented by the Apple of Eden. Religion, as in the Crusades, but also news, propaganda, stories, anything that can sway the will of the people without them even realizing that it's happening, including social media and video platform algorithms we interact with daily nowadays, whether we want that or not. Those weren't that relevant when the game was released, but that's why the metaphor is timeless. And yet, there will also be people willing to oppose that, who fight to protect the right to choose, the right to an identity, the right to make our own decisions, which might be wrong, which might not always lead to the best outcome, if any good one at all, but without that right, we're not going to be able to transcend the illusion and look past the veil of control. Those are the Assassins. Some of us will participate in that battle firsthand. For the majority of the population, though, it is a fight beyond our direct control. The only thing we can do, the only responsibility we truly hold, is to not act blindly. And after finishing the game, I slowly realized I had been doing exactly that. In the classroom, practically every day at school, in a setting far less global than that of a fight for power disguised as religious justice, but far more personally significant, I was Altair. But not the Altair at the journey's end, the wise man who understood the human condition. I was the Altair from the beginning, brash, aggressive, cloaked in a sense of superiority. Because, look, while I did feel hurt and ostracized, I was also viewing the entire situation through a lens that was beneficial for me and me alone. I was actually wallowing in my own intellectual dominance. I was agonizing in self-doubt not because I considered the possibility I was wrong, but because I was lamenting nobody could see the strength of my arguments, proving that I alone, out of all my classmates, knew the truth they refused to see. Among my arsenal of arguments was all I knew about the Crusades, At the time, I was deeply interested in that era. In fact, that's one of the reasons why Assassin's Creed was on my radar in the first place. But I came to see that beyond genuine curiosity that initially instigated it when I was about 12, my drive to keep learning about the Crusades eventually became fueled by a subconscious desire to use it as ammunition. After all, what better proof of a faith's folly than the atrocities committed in its name, as if my teenage friends were responsible for the affairs of humanity 1,000 years ago. And while we're at it, history also shows the lack of faith has never stopped from committing mass atrocities either. So this and many other arguments I had were, quite frankly, hypocritical in nature. Nothing is true. I may not believe in God, but if faith is a comfort to others, if it helps them be better, kinder, to make sense of the world, to hold on to hope, who am I to deny them any of it? That's what Altair the way he is in the beginning would do. He was a reflection, not of all of me, but of a part I needed to face. And if I wanted my situation to change for the better, I had to start with myself. Yes, there was social pressure involved, and no, that wasn't right. But I had to stop using my words to hurt in response. I had to take responsibilities for my actions regarding something as personal as faith. As a result, in the weeks and months that followed, my classmates and I smoothed everything between us. They started seeing a side of me they haven't before. Eventually, we have found how to accept each other the way we are. I began with sharing that I find beauty in chaos, that to me, looking at the existence of life on Earth as a result of billions of little coincidences adds infinite meaning to our time here, and if we're to assume it's the only time we have, then might as well try to make the best out of it for everyone. And hey, you know what? That argument leads to mutual understanding far better than blaming anybody's ancestors, among which, let's be fair, are most likely mine as well, for yelling Deus Vult while massacring cities of different religions. I suppose this is why what could be called issues with Assassin's Creed gameplay never bothered me. It was never bad, but the dominant strategies in combat, the somewhat clunky as innovative as it was at the time parkour, mission design that's simpler than it would have been ideal, it's problems that exist, but they never pulled me out from the deeper, immersive, interactive lesson about the nature of humanity. A lesson that I have retained since my teenage years. There's so many different outlooks on life, identities, dreams, and all of them, as long as they do not seek to rob the same from another, deserve their place in the sun. For they are proof that we are truly making our own paths, crafting our own meaning. And how can that be anything less than amazing?